Hello and welcome to the Domestic Workers Chronicles. My name is Lindy Way, the maid of all maids, the domestic of all domestics, the madam of all madams. Some people call me Kalashnikova Mafavoka. Guys, welcome. If it's your first time on the channel, please like the channel, subscribe. This channel, we're talking everything domestic workers, nannies, au pair, home-based care workers, drivers, everything domestic workers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So on today's episode, we still continue with our topics, how to identify and hire a good domestic worker. On previous episodes, we spoke about elements you need to look at. And just to recap, we spoke about the job spec, and elements within the job spec are the type of helper you're looking for. The second thing is the skill set that you want, the skills you want them to have. The third thing we spoke about, the type of job itself, the job spec itself. How big is the house? How many people are in the house? How many dogs do you have? Do you need her to clean the pool? Do you need her to clean the yard? You know, we have households that prefer the gardener to do that, but yet you also have households that prefer the maid to do that. So look at your household and draft that job spec according to your needs. Now, today we're going to talk about where to go. We are talking about, okay, Lindy, we can understand that. It's once again hire domestic because the domestic 15 and then, you know, and let me tell you something, when you hire a domestic worker, it's not even about the salary. Of course, we are saying you must pay within the set minimum wage, you must pay, and the set minimum wage is not like if sectorial determination 7 says, oh, minimum wage is 3,000, you pay 3,000. My dear friend Selani, who's got a 17-bedroom house, cannot pay 3,000, guys, because 3,000 is too little for that house. So you also must take into consideration when you look at the salary rate, you must also look at the job spec. Labona bo madam, why hold a job spec is important? So that you become fair when you offer that person a salary. You become fair to yourself and you become fair to the person you're offering the job to. Okay, so today we're talking about where then can I go? Domestic worker, right? So number one, if you checked out our previous episodes, and if it's your first time, please like, please subscribe, and check out the previous episodes. If you check out the previous episode, I discouraged hiring someone you know or a relative, right? I'm discouraging that like 80% no and 20% yes, because I'm saying out there, you might have hired your friend or your relative or someone you know and it worked out. And you know what, kudos to you. It has worked out. But 80% of the cases that I've worked with, even when we did a show on Showmax, we discovered that the lines become blurry. If my sister comes and works for me or my cousin, they start thinking, oh, Lindy is my auntie. Now they're no longer working, you know, and they start watching TV and so forth and so on. So I discourage that. And number two, I also, if you check previous episodes, I discourage people going kokoneng, spa, or outside the estate and seeing these women with boards saying domestic worker. And you just say, I just need someone who can come and just, you know, clean on Saturday. Or, the house is so dirty, because the house is dirty today, I just need her to come for today. Listen, you don't know that person. You have not vetted or background checked that person. And let's be honest, madam. What happens is that if you've got a 100,000 engagement ring or necklace or whatever that is expensive and it's so tiny and it's in that little box, do you always go and check that ring? No, you don't. So this woman is going to come and clean and maybe take the ring, and then where you going to look for that person? At the corner of spa or at the estate outside. You just made them rich, bruh. So you're not going to get that ring back. So I'm just saying, let's be sensitive when we hire people. So I discourage those kind of, you know, employment. And sometimes you are thinking, because I'm going to go to the corner of the street or outside the estate where women are carrying boats, the domestic workers, this domestic worker is going to be cheap, and then she's just coming in and clean and leaving. Number one, I mentioned this before, I'm very sensitive towards who comes into anybody's household. Because whether we care to admit it or not, and whatever religion or spirituality you subscribe to, the reality is people carry themselves with certain energies. So when that person comes into your house with a particular kind of energy for that 2 hours, for that 4 hours, just to clean, let's say she doesn't steal, she cleans, she leaves. She has left that toxicity and negative energy in your house. And all of a sudden, for 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, you are fighting with your children, you're fighting with your husband, you feel like, you know what, you are depressed for no reason. Now you have to take antidepressant. You know, the effects of that are so much that because they are not tangible, we feel like, she's just coming in, man, to clean and leave. So let's be sensitive towards who we bring into our household, right? And we also need to be sensitive. Do we know who we are bringing into the house? So one of the things that we do is we do thorough background checks. And people think background check is a criminal check. No, a background check is not a criminal check. If someone goes to SAPS today and a criminal check and then gets it after 6 months, because it usually takes forever, and commits a crime after a week of getting that a police check, that crime is not recorded on that police check. So our checks are quite thorough and are real time. So we run background checks, and our background checks really are authentication of ID or passport or asylum or work permit. Is taking your fingerprint and running that through a system. We cannot disclose at this point what system is that, but it's very much linked to the National Intelligence and also SAPS, but it's on real time. So if we get someone awaiting trial, it will hit that report. If that someone commits a crime within a period where we are still busy with their employment, it will hit and give us an indication. So when we talk background checks, we're not just talking, I've collected her ID and I've got a police check, a police station, banally criminal check, but that's 100 rand. It doesn't work like that. So when we talk about make sure that you're sensitive around who you're bringing around your household, we're talking about knowing that person. And let me tell you another horrific story. We had a domestic worker we placed in Mafike, and she came in, and I mean, it was at the time when we were starting, we had no funding, we had no support, and we were excited. This lady had a beautiful CV. She goes into that household and later on does something wrong, and when we thoroughly checked this person, we realized she was not using her passport. Actually, she was using her sister's passport. But now if my sister Khomoto stands next to me, listen, you look at us on our IDs and my sister Bota, we look the same. You wouldn't know who's older, who's younger. So those are things that you need to be sensitive about. And also another horrific story, and this is a sensitive one. Most of you have seen this trending. We've seen that there was a lady who was employed, only to find that that lady is a man. And this man was sexually engaging with the 14 and the 16-year-old. Now, the parents woke up one day and their kids are pregnant. Who's impregnating you? We are so strict. We pick you up from school, we take you to school, we go to church, we do this. And the kids had to say, no, okay, auntie. What, auntie? And they took off auntie's clothes, only to find that this person is not a woman. And that is not being homophobic or anything like that. What we are saying is, if you're looking for a job within the domestic worker space, you need to be upfront, you need to be transparent. But not only are we going to trust that, we have implemented systems to make sure that if you say, I'm Joyce, you are Joyce. Your gender, your ID, I mean, we authenticate even addresses. I mean, we run FICA and KYC because we want to make sure that where you say you are staying, indeed you are staying there. We run real-time criminal checks. We run employment references, right? And we run that at inception when we recruit our domestics, and we also then, by the time they get interviews, we then go further and run new checks just to make sure. So I'm not saying don't hire people and whatever, but I'm just saying as long as you've got mechanisms in place or places you can go, or say, listen, Lindiwe made for you, here is someone I like this person, but I just want to be sure who this person is. Allow experts to run these checks for you and make sure you hire the person who you believe they are, right? We need to be transparent and open in South Africa. We do have South Africans, we do have foreign workers, and for me, there is no reason for us to fight with foreign workers. We do welcome them into our country because at some point our own comrades went to their country to seek refuge. But however, you cannot work on guilt. And I know and I'm sorry to say this, and I'm not being a racist, but we have people that of certain colors that would then hire certain people of certain nationality to exploit them. Some people of certain colors will hire certain people of certain nationality out of guilt, because you're driving by the robots and you see these women with placards and you say, but I've got a job, let me give her a job. And that guilt is going to kill you, because you're going to come back one day from work and find your child missing, find your household goods missing, or find some weird things happening there. So let's be sensitive around that. So I discourage relatives and friends and so forth, 80%, 20% if you're comfortable. I discourage you going to the robot and going to the women outside the estate, by the corner, by spa, and what. My friend got a good one, and then just hiring someone you don't know. Most importantly, I discourage people who currently have domestic workers, but they don't know who they are. So some employers are very clever. So what we do, I mean, we drove to Lesotho. We literally drove to Lesotho with the kids after 2 years or so. I mean, we did the checks at the time. Made for You had the systems to do the checks. But we said, you know what, Auntie, this year we're going to buy you grocery and give you bonuses. And we made sure, we drive to Lesotho, we drop her off at the gate, we sit with the family. We eat supper with the family, we engage with the family. That in itself helps us to understand who she is outside the work environment. And we also give, you start looking at that worker differently, because you realize, oh, hi, treasurer, she's the church treasurer, she's the auntie to 7 kids. She's actually supporting 10 members of her family. So you sort of gain a different kind of respect for that worker, but also for your safety, you get to know who they are and where they originally come from. It's not something they told you, right? And worst case scenario, we've had these cases where domestic workers passed on. Guys, we had a lady that we loved so much. She was also from Lesotho. She had a toothache. And because we've got medical aid, at least we could organize for her to go for checkups. She went to that medical aid, did the thing with the dentist, removed the wisdom teeth, whatnot. And when she came back, she said, Madam, I'm tired, I want to sleep. She slept and she passed on. And now all of us are running around. I mean, at the time, we were also trying to get our systems together. We are running around trying to find out who's the next of kin, whose family, who's whatnot. So my biggest advice, I'm sure you hear where this is going, is to use experts. Where do I go? Go to an agency that is licensed, that is accredited, that is regulated, that is known by law, that is known by the Department of Employment and Labor, that this agency is the one that is appointed to train, recruit, and place domestic workers, right? As an employer, you have the right to actually say, I'm going to approach 3 agencies, 4 agencies, and give them my spec and say, here's my spec, this is what I'm looking for, I'm giving you 4 days to do this. Also avoid last minute things. We know this thing happened where you wake up, Auntie said, I'm on the way, kimo bothering, kimo bisinya intercade, and then in the morning she's still not there and she's no longer answering the phone. We do know those circumstances. But we are saying where you are able to allow an agency 3 to 4 days to get you someone amazing, someone who meets your spec. And also that agency must allow you to at least interview 3 or 4 people before you can appoint. And interviews, guys, don't have to be face-to-face. We are living in a digital era, Batumbo Madam. I get you can phone somebody and ask them, or video call or things like that, right? Remember, if you go through an agency like Made For You that is licensed and accredited to do this kind of thing, most of their database is women that are unemployed. So also they struggle with transport money. So let's be sensitive towards that. And don't send money to people you don't know, right? You know, in the next episode, how to manage the relationship. I can how to manage. And one of the things I discourage is airtime. But we'll get there. Just like, subscribe, you'll get the notification. So in this instance, I'm saying go to reputable agencies. You can get 3, 4 agencies and challenge them at the same time and say, here's my spec. I compiled this with my family. Please get me 3, 4, 6 candidates that I can talk to, interview, so I can appoint somebody. And you have the right to say, when an agency, what is your license number with the Department of Employment and Labor? Department of Employment and Labor, Department of Labor, guys. I can never use a my commodity by change. So no key, I won't get the linear. So you can ask, I mean, you phone labor and check that license or if valid now. Because guys, let's be real. When someone starts something amazing like I have, I mean, I started Made For You just from being a domestic worker. It's now a franchise. And now when people see something like that, like, oh, it's an easy thing, let's go. Somebody just goes and registers CIPC, and then can I CIPC, therefore I'm an agency, therefore, they are not licensed. There are regulation in that sector. There are licenses that you need to apply for. The regulators from labor come, inspect your office, inspect certain things. before you can get that license. I did an interview last on ENCA. I hope we can get a link to that interview, guys, so you can watch it, where we were going to these illegal agencies. They have listened to women with passports there, and then they charge them exorbitant amount of money. It's like they are kidnapping them. And if these women are not getting jobs within a certain period of time, then they must go to the tavern and sell their bodies to these men so that this lady can get money. So let's be sensitive, guys. Ki yona totally energy. Motola has not kwale until 2 months ali busy tekisa. Then this woman got agency or no, here's a domestic work. Then she's gonna come to your house with that kind of energy. Imagine, right? So thank you guys for joining in today. We are going to continue the conversation in our next episode. If you have not watched our previous, please do subscribe, like, DM, call us, whatever. Touch base with us. Let's talk more about this sector. Let's professionalize it. Thank you so much.